you guys probably all know about the 150,000 burpees and like the approaching 4,000 blog posts and things like that. And I think I have a bit of expertise in this area that I can say confidently. And I wrote them and said, you know, maybe I can share some of this stuff. And they wrote back and said, we'd love that. And so I gave this talk a little while ago. And at the end of it, I was very pleasantly surprised. You know, when you talk about something that's a part of your life, you just, I don't know, it's a part of your life. And at the end, they said things like, I never thought about it that way. I never realized, I don't know exactly what they didn't realize, but it was really big. So I said, and we said, let's do an encore presentation. I improved the slides a bit and made it more comprehensive. And this is actually a presentation that's basically 10 years in the making of just stuff that's come. And I'm not going to present all the science and stuff that I've over the years looked up and found about how to make habits stick, how to start them and so forth. That's there, but I don't find that that actually helps people with their habits. So this is what I find works. And let me jump into it. And Lana's going to jump in. I'm shooting to finish this about 5 minutes early because at that point she's going to jump in and say, Josh, finish. So I'm not going to go over. And I want to thank everybody for coming. The slides may be a bit wordy. That's because I want to make this available to everybody afterward as a reference. I think that's all the stuff to talk about ahead of time. If you have questions, again, as Alana said, put them in the chat box and she'll stop me if it's really important. And I'll be happy to. Here's a quote. Excellence is an art won by training and habituation. We do not act rightly because we have virtue or excellence, but rather we have those. We have virtue and excellence because we've acted rightly. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. I think this puts it pretty well. Let's keep this in mind for the whole thing. Now, your needs, as I understand, everyone is here for different reasons. And so I can't say exactly what, but this is what I think someone coming here is probably looking for. And so this is what I created this presentation for, is that people are struggling with being locked down, that we are spending a lot of time at home. We can't keep up our habits we don't have these external things keeping up our habits. And so we want to stay fit and we want to stay healthy. And that's emotionally and physically. So we want to have healthy heart, healthy mind, healthy body, healthy soul. And this is despite that we're alone, despite that there's no one there to motivate you. We often take classes because we know that if we pay for it, then we'll go. And now we can't go. And so how do we keep these things up? But you know that you can. This is not beyond you. You expect it's within your capabilities, but you're not quite sure how to make it work. Now, it may be that you're thinking, I want to make my yoga practice work. I want to keep my meditation practice going. Or maybe it's about lifting or writing. There's lots of different things that it could be. For me, well, I want to give you, if this sounds like I'm overstating it, I don't think I'm overstating this. I want to enable you may start the most valuable part of your life. So this is partly to help you get through this challenging time, but this is for the whole rest of your life. This is beyond just the here and now, although it's very useful in the here and now, but you may find something that changes your life forever. And I'm agnostic to activity. What I was saying before, maybe you're here because you want to keep your yoga going. Maybe you're here because you want to keep your you want to keep practicing violin or something like that. This will apply whether your daily habit or what you want to keep going is exercise. It could be painting. Maybe you want to sing, violin. If it's in business, maybe you make a lot of cold calls and you want to make those cold calls consistently and regularly, or you want to write down 5 business ideas all the time. What I do, I believe, will be useful and relevant to all of these things. And I want to start off with a major inspiration for me, Nelson Mandela. I don't know if people know, when Nelson Mandela, before he got into politics, he boxed. So here's a picture of him as a young man boxing. Here's a fun picture of him as an older man boxing. And we probably know that he was in jail for 27 years. 18 of those years was in this is his jail cell on Robben Island, which was their Alcatraz, not a pleasant place to be under any circumstances, even if you weren't in a jail cell. I believe that this, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but if you can, I believe that this was his toilet. And so many of us are not happy being locked down. We'd prefer to have other options. But I think it's safe to say that we're not looking at 18 years in a cell this size, going out to have to do forced labor periodically. So his boxing routine was an important thing for him in this time. Here's a quote from his autobiography. I attempted to follow my old boxing routine of doing road work and muscle building Monday through Thursday and then resting for the next 3 days. Monday through Thursday, I would do stationary running in my cell for up to 45 minutes, 100 fingertip push-ups, 200 sit-ups, 50 deep knee bends, and various other calisthenics. I believe that this helped him keep doing what he was doing. As you know, when he got released, he shortly thereafter became president of the nation. Actually, I want to tell a story about him that 18 years was in Robben Island. Towards the end of his imprisonment, he was in a low security prison and he was in touch with the rest of the world. And there was a brief period at the end when the government said to him, okay, Nelson Mandela, you're being released. And this is the date on which you're being released. He goes to the ANC and he says, okay, they're going to release me. This is the day. And they say, this is a huge, major world event. This isn't like, it takes time to set these things up with the media and all this other stuff. We need a little bit more time than that. And so he goes back to the government and says they need more time. And so technically there was a brief period when Nelson Mandela was negotiating to stay in longer and the government was negotiating to get him out. Now but I want to lead up to the day that he got out. Imagine Nelson Mandela, 72 years old. You've been in prison for 27 years. It's a major global event. It's a major event in world history. What do you do the day that you get out? At some point, you're going to walk from this, the building out to a walkway out to where everybody is. Here's in his autobiography. I woke on the day of my release after only a few hours sleep at 4:30 a.m. February 11th was a cloudless end of summer Cape Town day. I did a shortened version of my usual exercise regimen, washed and ate breakfast. As so often happens in life, the momentousness of an occasion is lost in the welter of 1,000 details. On this huge global day, he doesn't remember the world leaders he spoke to, but he remembers that he did his morning exercises. I want to point out 2 years before this, when he turned 70, there was a birthday party in his honor. It was a major global event. This was Wembley Stadium, I think it was 1990, on his 70th birthday, an event that I believe 200 million people participated in some way or other. I want to point out what one can achieve from captivity. Now, I'm not saying you're going to have a 200 million person birthday party, but there's no upper limit to what you can do, even locked down as we are. Now, we're not all going to be world leaders, things like that. Maybe we will all. That might happen. And I'm not saying that it was just the daily habits that did this, but if you read his autobiography and see how much his daily habits contributed to this, to his leadership, to his mental capacity and so forth, it's a big part of it. Other examples. There's a video here this is the Dalai Lama does burpees every morning. So I'm not putting, this is just a still from the video. And it's actually, he's doing his sun salutations, kind of look like burpees. So he's another person who does a daily habit. Gandhi, he negotiated with the King of England. And when it was his turn, he cleaned toilets in his ashram. Buddha meditated every day. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, probably most of you know, I'm not sure, but she exercises in the gym, I think twice a week, and she doesn't miss it. And there's all these, if you go online and look, you'll see all these these reporters who go and do the exercises with her. And they're like, oh, it's really serious business, it's hard. Look up Benjamin Franklin if you don't already know about the level of daily habits that he does and how important that was to him. I just recently watched a documentary on John Coltrane. So he had all these habits. I mean, he practiced almost more than anyone, I think. Any artist or musician will credit a lot of their practice, a lot of their skill to their daily practice. And here's something fun, not right now, but at some point, go search YouTube or just search in general, just the internet for every day for a year. And you will find all these people who have done something every day for a year. And it could be dance or sports or yoga or art. And I just watched a video of a guy who dribbled a basketball every day for a year. And by the end of it, I think he became either the world champion of dribbling in some context. And he was like doing stuff with the NBA. There's these videos of I remember there was one woman who danced every day for a year. And by the end of that year, she was making it on the talk show circuit because her dancing was so good. And she made a video that worked so well. There's a guy here who proposed to his wife, well, now wife, every day for a year. I'll let you see the video to see what that's all about. And it's really inspirational stuff. So that's a bit of prelude. Here's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to give you a little bit of background for myself, for those who don't know me. I'll hopefully keep that quick. And then I'm going to give you stories and lessons from my life and some other people in my life Because I don't just want to tell you, here are the things to do. I want to ground that in where it came from, where these lessons came from. So I'm going to tell a couple stories, and after each story, I'm going to tell a lesson. At the end, I'm going to take all these lessons, put them together into the instruction or what to do for you, which is going to be 2 steps for how to make all this stuff work to you after the stories put it together. And then there'll be questions at the end. So a little bit about myself, for those who don't know. If you looked at my CV, you see that I have a PhD in physics. There, I'm getting it. I helped build a satellite. The satellite's up in orbit, taking data right now. I left academia to start my first company. Here's the first article that was about me in the Wall Street Journal. So there, if my mom is on here, she can see there's me. You might also see that this is 2001. So soon after that, there was a recession, and I got squeezed out by the investors. Very difficult time. It ended up me going back to business school, getting my MBA, using the same picture. And ever since then, I teach leadership and entrepreneurship at NYU. I coach and lead workshops at Columbia. I also teach directly through Spodek Academy. I have my blog. I recommend subscribing to it. And well, speakers kind of, with the COVID stuff, we'll see how that goes, but I haven't been speaking lately, but generally I do a lot of public speaking. And my Leadership in the Environment podcast, what I'm talking about now is something that is a foundation for all these things, but my podcast, I highly recommend subscribing and listening to, because this is where I put my heart and soul. I think the environment, well, I'll let you look up Leadership in the Environment for that. If you want more, ask me at the end. And then I'm a best-selling author. Leadership Step by Step became a really big hit. Initiative's on its way there. So these are my books. And now I want to go more specifically into some of my habits. For people who don't know, I'm going to say some of the habits and some of what that's led to. So the first habit that really started for me was my blog. I've posted every day since, I believe, January 2010. So I'm approaching 4,000 blog posts. And you might say, okay, what's so great about that? Well, I mean, there's certainly the internal things that I could tell you about the self-awareness and the ability to come up with ideas and the ability to write things, but I'll just give the concrete stuff. At one point, I got in touch with an editor at Inc. and I said, could I write? And the editor said, well, can you give me any writing samples? And I said, how about a few thousand of them? So I got a column at Inc. Same thing, Psychology Today. I met an editor. She said, do you have any samples? And I said, how about several more thousand? So I have a column at Psychology Today. I'm a best-selling author. The podcast emerged from from blogging as well. Once again, these are the books available anywhere. So the burpees, I do them every day. Started in December 2011, I believe. And I crossed 150,000. The self-awareness, the fitness that comes from that, I can't really put into words, so I'll just say the concrete things. The book on the right here, The 1 Minute Workout by Marty Jabala and Christopher Shulgin, Marty is one of maybe the expert on high intensity interval training. And there's a 3-page profile of me in this book, which led when he was on the Tim Ferriss podcast, that they talked about me. That's really cool. So I'm the subject of one of the top books in the field, covered by one of the big names in the world. In terms of my health, at one point last year, I had a 40 beat per minute resting health, which is like borderline Olympic level. And that's just for me, mainly doing the burpees, a few other exercises as well. My blood pressure, last I checked, was 106/62. My BMI is 20. I eat tons. I love how much I eat. And partly other people, they stress about fitness and exercise and diet. And for me, it's just very, very natural. So my resting pulse now is like 45, 46, 47, something like that. Also, something I'll tell a bit later. People ask me, what do you do when you're sick? Do you still do your burpees? I've had a runny nose here or there. I've definitely injured myself by like stubbing my toe or like falling, something like, I'm sure I've had injuries, but I've not been meaningfully sick or depressed in over 8 years. And this, I think I credit the regular burpees to that. Actually, it started as burpees. Now it's a 20-minute, twice a day calisthenic routine. But in my heart, it still feels like 10 burpees, as I'll describe in a bit. Cold showers, I'll talk about them in a bit. People who get it, get it. People who don't get it, no matter how much I explain how awesome they are, I can't really get it across. But I'm approaching 500 cold showers. I do them not every day. I did them every day at the beginning, but now I do every 5th day. And they're tremendously valuable in a way that, ask me later why they're so valuable. I also I used to take half an hour to wake up in the morning. And one day I started a habit to wake up. The deal is I wake up, make my bed, cross the room, and turn off the alarm within 60 seconds. And so now I'm 1,200 days into that and going, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. I also started about 3 years ago to pick up at least one piece of trash per day. I don't expect to clean the whole world that way, but I can't tell you the insight it gives you into your neighborhood, the mindset of someone who's littering, and the environment being something very important. It's a really big deal. I also have several habits that are avoiding things. So those are things that I did. These are things that I avoid. So people might know that I avoid packaged food. So I'm not at zero for that, but I mostly get unpackaged things, fresh fruits and vegetables, legumes and grains, and dried fruits and nuts from the bulk food section where I bring my own bags. And that has led, I used to throw out my garbage about once a week. Now I threw out my garbage once in 2019, once in 2018, once in 2017. Then that led me to challenge myself to see if I could go for a year without flying. And that has been such a tremendously valuable experience that at the end of actually a couple months into my first year, I said, let's go for a second year, then third, fourth, and I'm now in my 5th year of not flying. So that's a lot less pollution. This is not about leadership. This is just about me living by my values. Separately, I lead others to take on things like this. But that's led to 3 TEDx talks. It's led to me doing plenty of keynotes. I've been on TV as basically doing things that I think a lot of people think is important to do. And I'm actually doing these things, and it's leading me into a leadership role. I love it. Here's a habit that I'm not bad on. My first hour of the day, I have a rule not to use the internet for the first hour. I'm not bad on that. There's sometimes, I'm probably 90% of the way there, but every now and then I get up and I'll start reading something. But that really, I start my day off, I generally try to get into a flow state. So I'm not bad on that one. There's another one I'm not quite so good at. I have a rule not to use the internet after 10 p.m. I'm pretty good at that, but not great, but definitely a lot less than I used to be. And that's an avoiding habit that's working pretty well for me. Some other results. I love the results that I see in others because I'm having this effect on lots of people around me. My brother-in-law, for example, he and I text each other every evening on when we finish our burpees because he doesn't do it quite as much as I do, but it's like a friendship that we form that way. Here's a calendar that someone sent me after I gave a talk on this. And I don't know if you can see, but this is a guy who's doing 30 burpees. He was doing a month of burpees, and he sent me the calendar just showing how awesome it was because he really loved that experience. Then Christian Berger is a friend of mine that we met because he learned about this stuff. I called him Million Burpee Guy. He's younger than me. And he started doing his, I think it was 100 burpees a day, 5 days a week, just weekdays. And last I heard, he's up around 176,000. So he's passed me by. I wish I could say I have the most in the world, but I'm kind of taking credit for his too. And we have a friendship that's developed over this. He's in Texas, I'm up here, and we have this friendship forming. I think he's injured now, so he's put it on hold, but I have a feeling he'll get back to that. And I really like this spreading. The people around me tend to be more fit as a result of being around me. Fitness being my burpee, my SIDCHA, my daily habit. Okay, let me tell a couple stories from my life. The first one is David Allen. He might be on here. I invited him to join this. And for those who don't know, David Allen wrote a book called Getting Things Done, which I highly recommend. It came out just about 20 years ago. A lot of people that I knew read it. And so I thought, okay, all these people are reading Getting Things Done. I'll read it. I read it, and it didn't really change my life. As it happened, I was at a book release for Marshall Goldsmith, a friend of mine, and I'm talking to some guy at this book release party, and it's David Allen. And I say to him, I read your book, and I thought it would make me more productive, but I have to say, I think I knew my priorities pretty well. And so I think I get things done pretty well. It didn't really make me that much more productive. And David says, everyone thinks the book is about productivity. The publisher put productivity on the cover because that sells books, but that's not what it's really about. The book is really about mental freedom. If you're talking to me now, like if I'm talking to you, my clock says 1:54. If I had to make a call at 2:00 and by 2:05 it would be late, and I didn't know that I would be sure to make that call, my mind, I would not be able to be present with you. I would be thinking, don't forget to make that call. Don't forget to make that call. Have you made that call? Don't forget to make that call. What would happen if I don't make it? If your mind is preoccupied with these things, you will never be able to focus on what you're focused on. And So then I reread the book and I realized it's a totally different book than I thought. And it gave me mental freedom. An illustration of this is one time I was coming home. I had something on my mind. I was thinking about something important. I live on the 5th floor of my building. As I'm walking into my building, I thought to myself, should I take the stairs or should I take the elevator? The elevator's faster, it's more convenient, it's easier, but the stairs, I get more exercise. And it hit me, wait a minute, I don't want to think about this. What was I just thinking about? And I couldn't remember what I was just thinking about. And I said, I used the GTD, the getting things done principles. I said, look, just figure out once and for all, stairs or elevator. And ever since then, I only take the stairs, and I've never lost my train of thought walking in the building. And so I recommend getting things done, but a principle that applies here is that the goal of what we're going to do here today is first and foremost mental freedom. Freedom by enabling the things that are important to you in your life to make those things a part of your life by making it automatic, because mental freedom comes through structure. That's been my experience. This is what I'm sharing with you. Other people, maybe it works out in different ways, but this is what's worked for me. The goal is mental freedom. I want to give a couple other perspectives on this freedom because I think it's so critical to what we're working on. Martha Graham, if you don't know, she's basically the founder of modern dance. And this quote of hers has stuck with me. It's maybe my top quote in life. The dancer is realistic. His craft teaches him to be. Either the foot is pointed or it is not. No amount of dreaming will point it for you. This requires discipline, not drill, not something imposed from without, but discipline imposed by you yourself upon yourself. Your goal is freedom, but freedom may only be achieved through discipline. In the studio, you learn to conform, to submit yourself to the demands of your craft so that you may finally be free. I could wax poetic on this quote for hours, but I have found this to be the case, that discipline leads to freedom. Coming at it from another perspective is Vince Lombardi, the great coach in football. And he said, winning is not a sometimes thing. It's an all the time thing. You don't win once in a while. You don't do things right once in a while. You do them right all the time. Winning is a habit. Unfortunately, so is losing. So this is, I feel very similar things coming out from different cultures. And for those who know Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL, he puts it very simply, discipline equals freedom. And if it doesn't sink in with you as I'm saying it, I hope that what I'm talking about for all the rest of this is freedom, mental freedom, physical freedom, by making things automatic in your life. Now I'm going to start talking about the first habit for me, which is blogging. So I started blogging actually not with a habit. A friend of mine set up, I forget what the platform was. This was pre-WordPress. I started writing, but I'd write every now and then. I'd come up with an idea and I'd write. A week later, I might write again. A month later, I might write again. Nothing really sticking. A different friend of mine said, Josh, you seem to really like to write. Why don't you write more regularly? And he says, and I say, I don't know. I don't really like using the platform. He goes, just switch to WordPress. And I was like, I don't know. And he goes, look, I'll set it up for you. So he comes over to my place and he's working on my laptop and he's setting up WordPress. And I'm sitting there next to him. And we're kind of joking around, having a good time joking because we're friends. And I say to him, by the way, how often do you post? Is it like once a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, when you have a good idea? And we went from joking around and suddenly he turns and he's like, his face gets really straight and very serious. And he goes, every day. If you can miss one day, you can miss two. If you miss two, it's all over. And in a moment, I realized there's a lot of blogs out there that have, you know, they go for a while and then there's like a missed day and then there's a couple missed days and they just stop. And ever since then, I've posted every day. And something happened. It's so much easier for me to post on a day when I'm tired and I don't feel like it. I've just found it easier to post that day than to the mental effort of should I post and what if I have to restart again? And so that got me going on posting every day and realizing it's just easier to keep it going than to restart it if I have to. And by the way, that leads to developing a whole lot of other skills, which I'll get to in a later slide. So the lesson here is if you miss one day, you can miss two. If you miss two, it's all over. It's, in my experience, easier to keep it going than to stop and restart. About a year later, I'm reading an article in the New York Times Magazine. This is a little clip of it here. So Gretchen Reynolds, who might be here, I invited her. She asked a bunch of fitness experts, what's the single best exercise? If you could pick one exercise to be the best, what would it be? And so they talk a little bit about the butterfly for swimming. It's a great exercise, but You need a swimming pool. It's not so easy. It's not the easiest thing in the world. So they go on and they talk a bit. And so Martin Jabala, whose book I just talked about, said when pressed, he suggested one of the foundations, he suggested the burpee, which for people who don't know, you drop to the ground, kick your feet out. I do a push-up, then you pull your feet back in and jump as high as you can. It doesn't require any equipment. It doesn't matter the weather. You don't need a spotter. You don't need a trainer. You don't need any special clothing. So it's got a lot going for it. Now he casually also says, but it's hard to imagine most people enjoying an all burpees program or sticking with it for long. So I read this article and didn't think much of it. I'd actually never heard of a burpee before. Some months later, I'm having drinks with a friend and I mentioned this article just in passing and we're joking around. And somehow one thing leads to another in the conversation. We decide we're going to do 10 burpees a day for 30 days. Now, some people tell me that there's like research out there that like if you do burpees or do a habit for a certain amount of time, it'll stick. We didn't know anything about that. We didn't really care. It was just a friendly thing. We said, we'll check that. We'll text each other every evening, or it's text, call, or email every evening. And we started doing 10 burpees a day. Then after a little while, we realized, oh, we could do more. So we went to 11 a day, then we went to 12 a day. And at one point he decided he was going to do one set in the morning, one set in the evening. So we doubled the number. So by the end of that month, we were doing something like 25 a day. Now, people who know me might know that I have after a kind of slothful childhood, I got into playing sports. I played ultimate Frisbee in college and club, and I played at nationals a couple of times and played at worlds. Then once I aged out of that and couldn't play the team sport anymore, I switched into marathons. And so I've run, by this point, I think I'd run 5 marathons. And I wanted to find a way to stay fit. Marathons are kind of boring. I didn't have doing team sport is easy when you're on a college campus. And so I joined the gym at the end of my block. And the gym was cool. I liked it. I got a good workout, but it cost money. But more importantly, on days when it rained or snowed, I wouldn't feel like going. And so it was kind of drudgery. It took more work than I wanted to do. There were things discouraging me from going. Then I'm doing these burpees and I realized no equipment, very low risk of injury, no spotter necessary. Nothing was keeping me from doing it. And as I'm doing burpees one day, I asked myself, why would I not do this? And I decided I'm going to do burpees as forever. And it wasn't like a conscious decision at the beginning, but I realized this is something I can do and there's no reason to stop it. So since then I've done burpees on 6 different continents. I've spent not one penny on all these burpees I've ever done. It's an amazing exercise. It's a full body exercise. I've added now calisthenics to add some other things and some stretches. And the lesson here is that remove excuses. Excuses make it easy to stop. And if you miss one day, you can miss 2. If you miss 2, it's all over. So if you find something that it is independent of the weather, independent of equipment, if you don't need a spotter, if it doesn't take money, if it doesn't have risk, that's a major thing to keep you from stopping your exercise. So that's a big thing, is to actually later.
Okay, so I tell you what, while we're waiting for Josh to reboot, why don't we let's have some conversation just in terms of what you guys are hearing so far. Is there anything you're hearing so far that has already been a light bulb for you, that's already a change in the way that you've looked at things? Anybody can either raise their hand. I've got everybody is on mute. David Rushford.
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Cool. So I actually had Josh on my podcast many years ago, and he talked about the self-imposed daily healthy activity, and he talked about his burpees, and this was probably 2015 or 16. And I'm a yoga teacher, practitioner, and I freaking hate burpees, but they're very similar to sun salutations, and I think a burpee is just sort of a crude version of a sun salutation, but it is more aerobic. And I've been upping my running, and my running program said in week 3, do not run. So you need to do some alternative cardio. And of course the gyms are closed, so I can't work out on a bike or anything like that. And so I thought, why not burpees? Why not? I'll just try doing 100 burpees a day as my cardio for the week. And then I just decided, well, why not do it for a month? Because as Josh was saying, there's all these challenge videos of like doing something every day for a month. Well, right now I'm day 19 into 100 burpees a day. And I've never really done them before with any consistency. And I gotta say, I feel absolutely amazing. And it is tough, but it's simple. You know, it's like I do them first thing in the morning, after I have my tea, and it's like, okay, at 6:30, it's burpee time. And as added accountability, I decided to live stream it on my YouTube channel. So there's a couple people watching every day. I don't know why anyone would want to watch somebody do 100 burpees. It's painful, but whatever. And my accountability is there. And the physical changes over just the first 20 days, I'm not like an unfit person, but like I've lost about 5 pounds of body fat. Of course, I am watching what I eat a little bit better. And then my resting heart rate has gone from in the 55 range down into like the 47, 48 range.
Wow, David, that's amazing. That is such an awesome benefit that you are getting from that.
Yeah.
I'm also going to hear from Emily. I'm going to unmute you. You put a comment in also about something that blew your mind. I'd love to, maybe you share a bit about what your takeaway was on this too.
Yeah, I think when he said it, when he was like, discipline leads to freedom, I was like, holy cow. Like, it's so simple. It's so true. And I could immediately see the ways in which, you know, like David, I think I'm pretty fit. You know, I was a collegiate athlete. Like, I work out, I'm doing the Insanity program now. And I was like, wow, but you know, if I wake up in the morning saying, I'm going to see how I feel, I'm going to see how my body feels before I do this workout. Sometimes I get around to it, sometimes I don't. But if it's just that, if you're waking up and you're saying, I'm going to write for 30 minutes, or I'm going to, you know, do my, I did the Artist Way recently, and, you know, the morning pages, like I'm consistently doing it. It's just like this practice of just doing it and setting, and just that discipline. And it really, like, that's like a huge unlock. My boyfriend was an Olympic fencer, and I think I texted him and I was like, this webinar is like an insight into your brain. I'm like, now I feel like I see how you do everything and how you're so productive. But we talk a lot about freedom, whether it's financial freedom. And I think mental freedom is not something I've thought of. I thought about, you know, freedom with my time, but I'm an advertising producer in my 9-to-5, and just thinking about, wow, if I had the mental freedom to explore, to do this, holy cow, the meeting example that he gave was so relevant, because I'm in back-to-back meetings and I'm thinking about the next one. It really like really kind of expanded so much of the framework and what I'm thinking of. And so like really, really powerful for me.
Cool. Yeah, that's hey, Josh, you do a sound check?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh my God, I'm so mortified at this.
Hey, you can't control the internet. Don't worry about it. People are sharing some great insights that they got. So why don't we take we'll take one more while you get the presentation, everything all set up.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Pam, I'm going to unmute you. I know you you dropped a note in the comments in there also. There's something that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I really struggle with the whole exercise thing. And what Josh was saying, I feel like I spend so much time thinking about it. I mean, I'm wasting so much time with that mental kind of war going on in my mind that I got to exercise, and I keep talking about it and it's not happening. Instead of that, just do it. And to start doing it and not spend that extra time thinking about it. Sort of like, you know, Josh's example of, you know, the stairs versus the elevator, just do it and not spend that time. So that was revolutionary to me. And I feel like that's going to really help me a lot. And that's the goal, mental freedom. So
yeah, awesome. That one story was really a click for me also when I heard it. You know, I had always, you know, I started talking about the values work that I do, and I live by that, and I do that, and I've got my values out and what my goals are because of that. And every now and then there'd be days that just would fritter by. And suddenly when it was that, oh, you just make the decision once, that was a light bulb for me too. Totally with you. Okay, Josh, it looks like you are back and we got your presentation going and everything. All right, let's turn it back over to you.
I can't wait to see the video and hear what I missed. So I think the last thing I said was about removing excuses. and that you can start with friends. I did start that with friends, but eventually he stopped doing it. And so I would say, don't rely on them. Eventually seek to make it internal just yourself. And also one result of this is that, you know, at about 5 years into doing this, I emailed Marty and Gretchen and Christopher and told them that I was doing this. And that's what led him to put me in the book. He didn't know that I was doing this. I was just doing it on my own. And that led him to being on the podcast. And having the world to know about this, to make it part of your identity, really helps. It adds a lot of accountability. And you don't have to do it so you get like world famous people talking about you. With friends and family is enough. Make it part of your identity, share it. And there's a lot of benefit that comes to that. It creates accountability. For me, I suspect that if I missed a day for burpees, no one would really care, but I still feel like it would be like people would be like, what, Josh, you missed it? So I'd rather not have that happen. I'd like the accountability. And it attracts peers. No matter what you do, if you pick something relevant to you, people who like that and who work on that will come to you. So attracting peers is a big piece of it. And it creates community. These are things that are well beyond just the solo thing that you get from it. So I highly recommend making it something public about you. It doesn't have to be written about in the paper. Just make it something you share with friends and family. Joel Runyon, the guy, this is back when TEDx Talks, like not just anyone have them. And he tells a story, and I recommend going to watch his TEDx talk. He's become a friend of mine. In his talk, he talks about when it was a time of his life that he talked about when he was not doing particularly well. He always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but he was, I think, working as a UPS driver, and he won a contest to have lunch with an entrepreneur, a famous one. I've never found out who this person was. And the person says, Joel, it sounds like you really want to do big things. How come you aren't doing them? And Joel's like, well, you know, there's all these other things I have to do and other stuff I have to do first. And maybe the stuff I'm doing kind of counts. And he's making a bunch of excuses. And the guy says, Joel, why aren't you doing these things? And he's like, I just answered that. And he says, because of all these other things. And he goes, I'll tell you why not. Tomorrow morning, take a cold shower. And Joel's like, that's weird. That has nothing to do with anything. And he's like, besides, that's easy. So the next morning he wakes up and he's walking over, and as he's reaching his hand for the cold water handle, his mind starts saying, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And all the excuses that he had just said to the guy came up in his head. And he said, that's why what the answer meant. We say we can do these things, but you really have to do them. And so he wrote this up, and he wrote this whole thing on cold shower therapy, which I recommend reading, because I was reading it. And after he writes his stuff, people are responding back, and people are saying how they lost weight, how it improved their relationships. I'm like, what does that have to do with cold showers? And the more that I read, the more that I'm thinking, you know, I'm going to do this one day. And I read more, and I'm like, I'm going to do this soon. And I kept reading and reading and reading. And then I just turned around, walked out, turned on the cold water, and took my first cold shower. And I said, I'm going to take 30 days of cold showers, minimum 5 minutes, no hot water at all. And a crazy thing happened to me while I was taking these cold. By the way, this is like my third one. So I've been doing burpees now for a while. I've been doing the blog for a while. And something hits me while I'm in the shower one day, that these things all have something in common. And I couldn't put my finger on it. I was like, what's in common? Because writing is very different than cold showers, which is very different than burpees, but I feel like I'm getting something similar from each. And I started thinking, what makes it the same? And brushing my teeth every day, I did that my whole life, but that doesn't really count. And I knew that the very successful people in life often had habits that they credited their success to. And I came up with this. It has to be self-imposed. If you're going to lose your apartment because you don't go to work, that's extrinsic motivation. It has to come from inside, something you choose yourself to do. And if you don't do it, it's not going to get done. Daily. Now, technically, I've since relaxed it that as long as it has to be something that even times when you don't want to do it, you still have to do it. You still do it. So it could be every once a week, or it could be twice a week, but it has to be that you can't say no to it, that you have to do it. Challenging. So a lot of people read the paper every day. That's not particularly challenging. So it's also not going to make your life really great. And healthy. So smoking cigarettes, that's a habit that doesn't really improve your life as far as I can tell. It has to be active. So actually doing something. So reading, that's up to you to decide whether reading would count. I don't think it really counts. That wouldn't qualify as a life-changing thing. Meditation can be mentally active if not physically active, if you don't, not visibly so. And I made an acronym out of it: self-imposed, daily, challenging, healthy, active. That made SIDCHA. You've heard me say it a little bit before, because now to me, that's a regular word. And a SIDCHA it's a category of things. So it's not a specific habit. The SIDCHA concept implies a threshold. below that threshold, it's not necessarily going to make it's not going to be a life-changing thing. But if it's above that threshold, there's no scientific thing here. I think that a SIDCHA means that you're going to have a very successful, it's going to bring success to your life. It's going to work for you. And there's many different kinds. A SIDCHA could be a fitness SIDCHA, like burpees or push-ups or pull-ups or jogging or something like that. It could be mindfulness. It could be meditation or yoga. It could be artistic or expressive, painting a painting every day. It could be drawing a picture every day. It could be taking a photograph every day if it's a really good one. It could be business. It could be writing a business plan idea every day, or business ideas every day. Or it could be social, talking to someone new every day, making someone smile every day. There's lots of different varieties of things that could be SIDCHAs. You don't have to do burpees or cold showers. And the reason, what I found, I do different things I have different daily habits. I have different SIDCHAs. And I often would wonder, I would think to myself, if I do burpees every day, some of the benefit is my physical fitness, but some of it is my priorities and figuring out how to, developing discipline and the self-awareness that comes with that. And so this bar chart here shows if the total value of the activity to my life is this bar, some of that comes from because it's a SIDCHA. So the self-awareness, the knowing my priorities, the acting on my priorities, that in my experience is like 90%, 95% of the value. And the SIDCHA part, the burpee part, the strength in my arms and legs, the cardiovascular, that's really minor. Because if I switched, or if I consider another one, the cold showers doesn't give me physical strength. It doesn't give me endurance. Well, it kind of does give me endurance, but a different kind. It's still, to me, in my experience, 90 to 95% the same. No matter what SIDCHA you do, you get a lot of value. And if you switch from one to another, it's a really minor change. What's the point of this? Because a lot of people wonder, which one should I start with? And I tell them, you don't have to know what to start with. The fastest, most effective way to find the perfect SIDCHA for you is to start with any. And you'll get most of the benefit no matter what you do. And as you do it, if you start with one that's fitness related and you really want to make it something more social, you'll be able to switch very easily. And actually you'll find the one that fits you better through doing something that gives you value, even if it's not exactly the best value for you, much more than if you just sit there and think about it and try to imagine what might work for you. So this is a very useful tool to get started. What to start with? Any. And then if you want to, you can switch. Here's one of the big things about not keeping habits. We don't drop habits because they don't improve our lives. Most habits do. We drop them because we take on too many. A lot of people, they'll start doing push-ups every day, and someone says, oh, if you do like push-ups, you should do pull-ups. And they're like, okay, I'll do that too. And then someone says, oh, if you like that, you should try some yoga. And they do yoga too. And then someone says, well, you should take a picture every day. And then they say, and then somewhere along the line, they drop the push-up. And then somewhere along, they drop the sit-up. And then they think that keeping habits is hard. Keeping habits is not hard. We get distracted and then we drop them. So it's much more effective to stick with one. And the value of a SIDCHA, the value of the concept of the SIDCHA is that when someone says, here's a new one, you can say, no, thanks, I already have one. Because you know that the difference is only going to be that little 5% effect. Now, if someone says one that you think is just better than one you have, you can switch to it. But the thing is, you can say no thanks. And you don't have to worry, am I giving something up by just doing meditation and not doing yoga? Now, after you do it for a long time, you may realize I have the capacity to do two now. But the SIDCHA concept allows you to decline taking on too much. And that's a big hurdle from keeping you from dropping them. Or it's a big hurdle that keeps you from dropping them. All right, here's another one. 1 minute wake up. I was teaching leadership at NYU, and this one particular semester, I was having my students do a SIDCHA each. And one of them was saying, oh, I want to wake up early, because she said that she takes a long time to wake up in the morning. And she's like, oh my God, this is going to be hard. This is going to be really hard. And I thought, and I said to her, it may be easy, it may be hard. I can't say for sure, but you thinking it's hard is enough to make it feel hard. And as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I take like half an hour to wake up in the morning. I don't like to take all that time. And so I gave myself the challenge, let's see if I could wake up in a minute every morning. It may be easy, maybe hard. And thus began a good 3 months of horror. It was like, I couldn't stand it. I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to get up. Oh no, I got to do that 1 minute thing. No, please don't make it happen. Then I'd get up and I'd do it for 3 months. And then something shifted at 3 months. It wasn't a purpose, but it happened. that suddenly it was purpose. When you do something that has a measure of quality and there's a time limit on it, it gives you purpose. I'm not saying life-changing in that, but I wake up with purpose every day. And I now have an extra half hour every day. And a lot of people associate doing exercises, doing daily habits with, it takes resources, but actually this has given me, it saves time, it saves money, it saves resources. All the stuff I've talked about, I haven't paid for any of it. I mean, I guess I have a hosting site for my blog, but that's it. So I think of these habits as things that save or give you time, give you money, and give you resources. And I want to describe a pattern here that happens a lot. When you first start a new habit, the first couple of weeks, sometimes months, there's novelty. You're doing something new. I've never done burpees before. I'm learning how to do it. After a little while, it can start to feel like work. It's kind of boring. That's been my experience. And then after that, it shifts, as this one did, to a rhythm. To me, I don't find a drummer who plays the same drum over and over again. I don't find that boring. They're setting the rhythm to the music. And this is a rhythm to my life. I don't have to, I don't know how to put this into words. I do it every day. It's a part of my life. And these little nuances, when sometimes it's a little harder, sometimes it's a little easier, sometimes I do it a little earlier, sometimes I do it a little bit later. That variation on the rhythm is an art. That's where the self-awareness comes from. How does it feel like when I'm more tired? How does it feel when I'm not so tired? And so as you do this, it becomes a rhythm in your life. It's not something that I go out of my way to do. It's a little more harder. It's harder than brushing my teeth, but it's something I do, and it's just a rhythm. And I believe that will happen with you. You have a rhythm, a structure to your life. Mental freedom. People often ask, all right, I want to start burpees. How many should I do a day? And my old answer was, when you get home tonight, I would say, do a challenging number. Don't kill yourself, but don't take it too easy. And say you do 5. If that's a challenge number, start with 3. But then I realized that's not what's important. It's not. Here's the new answer. Here's where it comes from. A lot of people on December 31st say, I'm going to go to the gym every week for a year. And as we all know, by now, May, people aren't going so much. The gyms are empty. The person who says it is almost a different person who gives it up. So on December 31st, you're feeling confident. You're feeling like nothing will stop me from going to the gym. But somewhere around February, it's cold out. You had a hard day of work. The dog puked on the carpet, whatever, you got to wake up early the next morning. You're like, the person that moment is not the December 31st person. That person is thinking, you deserve a break. You've worked so hard. This is what you've worked hard for, is to take a break. Or maybe you had a really great week and you feel like, I deserve a break. I've worked so hard. This is what I get a break for it. When you stop, you're almost a different person with different motivations because we react to our immediate environment. And so my new answer for how many to start with is, and I put this to you guys now listening, think of one of the worst days of your life. The dog pukes on the carpet. You're about to get fired. The car broke down. You got a huge thing the next morning. You got in a fight with someone. How many burpees can you do that day? If today you can do 50, but on that day you can do 1, your number is 1. Because if you think you can do 50 every day, but that day you can only do 1, then on that day you do 1, well, you missed 1 day. If you miss 1 day, you can miss 2. If you miss 2, it's all over. And so my advice for people and how many to start with, whether it's burpees or how many cold calls you make or how many business ideas you write down, imagine your worst day. How many can you do that day? And that's your number to start with. And if you can't even do 1 burpee, that's fine. Start with a push-up. If you can't do 1 push-up, what can you start with? And if you want to, if you start today, do 50 today, but only count that 1 as your habit. And then when that day comes, do 1 and you are keeping with your habit. But that way, this is the way to keep, so you start so you don't stop. The challenge is not starting a habit. It's not stopping a habit. And I've never seen this advice anywhere. And this is how to keep it going. Now, say that you do 50 a day, knowing that actually only that 1 counts. But after a while, you realize, even on that day, I can do 2. Then move it up to 2. But that's a very conscious decision because I've gone from 10. Now I do usually 54 a day, 3 sets of 9 in the morning, 3 sets of 9 in the evening. And when I went from 20 to 21, that was a major decision because I'm not just thinking I'm going to do 1 tomorrow. I'm doing 1 a day for the rest of my life. It's a very serious decision. That's self-awareness. This is a really serious self-awareness exercise. How do you start each set? a lot of times, I don't know about you, but I would stand there and say like, okay, I'm about to start my burpees. Okay, go. And I'm still standing there. I go, okay, that was not it. This is it. Okay, now go. Okay, now go. And I'm sure people, I'm seeing Bashir smiling. I've spent 10 minutes easily not starting burpees. And then over the years, I've tried different things. Counting up from 3, counting down from 3, counting up from 5, counting down from 5. And sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. And it just happened that somewhere like 6, 7 years into it, I realized my rule now is on my next breath. So as I'm walking over to do burpees, I can sense my inhalation. I allow myself to inhale, but then I have to start before I exhale. Will this work for you? I don't know. It works for me. And since I hit on that one, I never take more than one breath amount of time to start. And that is what I would call a trick. When I ran marathons, sometimes I wouldn't want to go running, but I knew if I put my shoes on and my shorts on, I might not run that second, but I'd run. And I know lots of people, they say, if I go to the gym, if I just walk in the door, I'll go for 2 hours. But if I tell myself to go for 2 hours, I won't. I just tell myself to walk in the door. And these are tricks. I think a lot of people they'll look at Arnold Schwarzenegger and say, well, that guy just likes to lift weights. He just likes it. If I liked it, I would do it too, but he likes it, I don't. On the contrary, I believe we all develop these tricks. And I bet he had tricks to get himself into the gym just like everybody. And if you think you're going to start having these tricks, you're going to think it's going to be natural. No one is any different. Schwarzenegger is no different than anybody else. There's no inborn secret skill. When I was a kid, I watched a lot of TV. I ate a lot of ice cream. I had very low discipline. I don't do these things because I have discipline. I have discipline because I do these things. That first quote. Don't expect it's easier for anybody else. But the more that you do these tricks, the more they become a part of you. And now I have developed, when I say I want to do something, I'm not at 100%, but I do it a lot more than I used to. So some of the skills that have resulted from this and some of the results, I'll try to go through this a little quickly, but one of the big things is to do what I intend. I know a lot of people who tell me I'm going to do X, and then I have to put on my calendar, check with them to confirm, because they are not consistent. They don't consistently do things. I'm not at 100%, but I do it. I think I'm pretty good at, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Mindfulness, the self-awareness that you get from doing these things. You can't talk your way into this. It comes from doing. Mental freedom, this is what this is all about. You have to say no to a lot of things in order to make this. You have to say no to a lot of good things to have a great life. And this teaches you how to say no. There's a lot of things like I can't do because I got to do these things, but I've consciously chosen that. The important things I do, and these are the important things. I know my limits. I know how much I can exercise and how much I can't. And I know when I can expand it. I have a sense of who I am. I know my priorities and I know how to act on them. I know how to attract and connect with people when people have some similar thing, and to make time for them with people who don't have that value. This has created more time, more money, more resources in my life, not less. It doesn't take time, it gives me time. Especially with the writing, the ability to create ideas. I thought when I first started my blog, I had like a couple dozen things to write. On the contrary, I've developed, I thought I would run out, but on the contrary, I've developed the skill of creating more and more and more. Community, I attract and am attracted to people who have similar things, or people that challenge me equally. People tell me I look younger than there's some website, my physical age is like, my fitness age is like in 20s. And there's another big thing. A lot of the burpees that I do, like this in the middle of December in New York, it's dark. I'm doing it in the dark. It's cold. I don't even want to get out of bed. And I do them by myself. And no one has any idea that if I do them or not, no one would know except me. And when I do something, and when you do something that no one knows whether you would do it or not, only you, the word for that to me is glory. And this is one of the great things that's come from doing these things. It doesn't take time or money, no risk. So I'm going to review the lessons really quick. I'm going to go through the lessons that I wrote on the previous slides and then put them together into the 2-step process for you to bring to your life what I brought to mine.
And I'm going to give you 5 minutes, Josh, because I know we had a little cutout in the middle, but if we do 5 minutes, that'll give us 20 minutes for questions.
I appreciate the leeway. Thank you. The goal is mental freedom. If you miss one day, you can miss 2. If you miss 2, it's all over. Remove excuses. Make it so that nothing can stop you. You can start with friends, but don't rely on them. Make sure you've crossed the threshold that it's a SIDCHA, that it's self-imposed, that it's daily, that it's challenged, that it's healthy, that it's active. Doesn't matter which one you pick. You'll get to the best one eventually. Then when you get going, decline new ones if they're not better, or switch if they are better. Expect it to create time, money, resources in your life. There's a pattern. At the beginning, you'll be like, oh, this is kind of cool, but expect it's going to take a little work for some time, but then it will become a rhythm in your life. Start with what you can do on your worst day. Spend some time thinking what you can do. Don't flatter yourself. What can you really do on that awful day? And then add to it only when you know that from experience that you can do more. Be very judicious about when you add more. Know that it comes easy for nobody. You will develop and refine tricks with experience. And now the two-step process. Here's how to get a habit that sticks, I believe has a chance of becoming the best thing in your life. Pick any SIDCHA. Determine what you can do on the worst day and start. That's it. If the SIDCHA is something that you can't keep up on the worst day, pick an easier one. Determine what you can do on your worst day and then start. If you want to start with friends, by all means do that, but that's not necessary. Over the years, develop your tricks. It'll be hard at the beginning, but develop little tricks to get things going. Switch if you prefer another, and over time, increase the challenge if you want. Add new ones when you're ready. Do another SIDCHA after your first one is so solid a part of your life that you don't have to think about it. People think my burpees are really a big deal. I see people who take care of their dogs, and I think that's more effort than what I do, but they think what I do is more effort than them because we've done things that are valuable for ourselves. What not to do. I do not recommend requiring perfection. I'm still to this day refining. I go online and look at videos of squats. I look at videos of push-ups in order to improve my form. This is after 150,000 burpees. Have I gotten it right? I'm still perfecting it. Just make sure you're not going to injure yourself. Just don't injure yourself, but you don't have to require perfection. If you want perfection, if you want to improve, do it after you've started your habit. Practice will lead you to improve. If it requires you looking at videos or reading stuff, just start, and what you read will be more valuable for having started. It won't be so abstract. Practice first, then watch the videos, then read the books. Again, going back to Martha Graham. And when a dancer is at the peak of his power, he has two lovely, powerful, perishable things. Perishable, they could disappear if you don't practice. One is spontaneity, but it is something arrived at over years and years of training, not mere chance. The other is simplicity, but also a different simplicity. It's a state of complete simplicity. A lot of people think, wait, Josh, you're doing all these things over and over again. They think it's the opposite of spontaneity. They think it's complex. It's actually, it gives you simplicity. That's been my experience. And one last quote from Hemingway. I write every morning as soon after first light as possible. There's no one to disturb you, and it is cool or cold, and you can come to your work and warm as you write. You have started at 6 a.m, say, and may go until noon or be through before that. When you stop, you are as empty, and at the same time, never empty, but filling, as when you have made love to someone that you love. And I want to close with that. I can tell the stories if people want. I can take questions too.
That was beautiful. I love that last quote, Josh. There is a question here from, let me go back to, it was about writing. It's from Allie. And Allie asks, how long do you spend writing blog posts? If you ever have a day that you can't be bothered, do you just do it for 10 minutes and say, well, I've ticked that box? Or do you take the full amount of time and attention that you normally spend? Or indeed, are you always bothered?
Yeah, so on writing, I would give different answers if you'd asked about the burpees versus the writing. The writing I can do any time of day. I don't have a specific time of day that I do it. But I do have a file on my computer that has ideas. So a lot of times I'll write down a bunch of ideas, and especially I have some that are, how do I put it, quick and easy things to write. So if I come home and I'm drunk, which happens every now and then, or sometimes I've been known by myself only to get into bed and start falling asleep, and I'm like, oh, I didn't write. And then I get up and I'm like, go to that file, and I got to draw on one that's going to take me 2 minutes to write. And the crazy thing, I would like to say, you can go and look at my posts and see which are the crappy ones, but actually those ones tend to be the ones that get the most feedback, which is, I don't get it. I guess I should go to sleep and like do that more. But that's one of the skills that I've developed. So I have a, and actually there are some posts that have taken me weeks or months to develop. And so I'll have some outline that I put in there. And some develop into podcast episodes, and some podcast episodes turn into blog things. I would say on average, I probably spend half an hour a day. There are some days when I'll spend 2-3 hours because I just indulge in it. And when I do that, I remind myself, the average American spends 5 hours of TV, watches TV 5 hours a day. I've never gotten close to that in all my habits. And I can't understand, I've not watched more than a minute of Game of Thrones. I don't know what the show is about. And I'm not missing it in the slightest. If you guys like Game of Thrones more, that's your deal. I'm not going to try to get you away from it. There's some days when I've spent maybe 5 or 10 minutes on a blog. And then there's some that I just kind of work on for a long time. Now the burpees, I do first thing. I have a morning routine that is set. So I wake up, make the bed, cross the room, turn off the alarm, go to the bathroom, do the burpees, and then make my breakfast. There's other exercises that I do that might change that slightly. If it's a lifting day or if it's a cardio day, I modify it slightly. But that morning routine, it's no effort for me not to turn on the computer or use the internet for the first hour because I'm doing stuff.
Okay, there are a couple of comments, and then there are a couple of questions. I'm going to read this one from Christine. Maybe you have a comment you can make on this one, Josh. It says, I am a gym rat, religiously go almost fanatical every single day. Since quarantine, however, I find myself struggling to maintain the same level of athletic activity. The home workouts I find depressing, and it highlights that I can't go to the gym. I also find I have little motivation to eat these days.
So bodyweight exercises, I have a friend who runs a gym in Houston. And this guy is, he's ripped, he's huge, and it's all body weight. And when I do my burpee / calisthenic routine, I do have some kettlebells that I use, but when I travel, I don't bring the kettlebells with me. So I can make everything body weight. So if you go, there's lots of body weight forums online. And if you go search videos, there's lots of body weight things you can do. If the issue is you want to get the strength or you want to get the fitness that you use equipment for, you can, I think I'm fairly fit, but there are people way beyond me that use pure body weight. Look at gymnasts and things like that. If it's that going to the gym and having the social interaction,
She's
have
not.
I answered it?
Yeah, she's nodding. I think
okay.
What's going on here more is not so much the how to, but Christina, I'm working with a lot of people around this also. And there is the recognizing what we're missing, and that's the human side of it, and giving ourselves permission to recognize how much we need that and how sad that's making some of us and how we are grieving for the loss of those social connections. And so this program, in terms of just having a set thing, no matter how crappy I feel, I am going to do 1 push-up a day, right? And no matter how crappy I feel, I'm going to eat 1 apple a day or whatever that thing happens to be, helps get it through. And there is also the reality of what you're feeling, and many people are feeling and dealing with also.
Also, I want to add that when I start the burpees, there's a couple things. One, the friend that I started with, his name is James. He did it with his kids, and for some reason they had this little thing that when they started, instead of dropping down to do the push-up, he did a little jump. And I started doing that little jump. And I think of James virtually every single time, and him and his son. I think of him, and he's with me. But more than that, I think of Nelson Mandela. I'm with Nelson Mandela. I'm with Gandhi when I do these things. And I'm not like just saying this. When you are like, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. One of the things I think of is am I in jail for 27 years? He could do it. I can do this. And he's one of my role models in leadership. And this is something that connects me with him. And I'm not just saying this. I think about him all the time. I think about Gandhi cleaning toilets. I also do this cleaning the floors thing. And I think of Gandhi when I do that. And I hope I'm not flattering myself to connect with them in this way. But the social aspect of it comes through that as well. Oh, and then also, if you look on my blog, there's a post on like my workout friends, because every exercise that I do came from someone. Occasionally it'll come from a video of someone I don't know, but my whole lifting routine comes from my friend Chris. And one variation of my burpees comes from my friend Federico. And I think of them when I do these things. And it's a very tight connection, even when we're not there together. And my friend, you know, if you miss one day, you miss two. If you miss two, it's all over. He's with me all the time. And so there's a big social element to it, even though I'm by myself.
Lovely. There's a comment. Dan actually just dropped a couple comments there, something he really liked. He said, I love the minimum number to start with. Imagine your worst day. Consistency trumps intensity every time. Set that threshold. And then he wrote, Josh Spodek, words of wisdom. The challenge is in starting a habit. It's not stopping a habit.
I've never heard that advice. If someone has seen that advice elsewhere, let me know, because I've looked for it and I haven't found it. And it's, to me, it's not stopping. That's the challenge.
That's great. And Bashir turned off his video in the middle of this and did 5 burpees while we were on the talk.
That's what happened the first time. I think it was Aviva. She was like, I changed my clothes because she did the burpees while we were, yeah.
That's very true.
That was
okay, so
inspiring.
here's a question from Greg. He says, what's the difference between discipline and obsession? Or does it even matter?
Difference between discipline and obsession. Am I obsessive about this? I mean, to me, it's the emotions that are connected with it. To me, the emotion is, for me, it's joy, it's confidence, it's self-awareness. I think obsession would be fear or worry. Like, I'm not worried that I'm not going to do my burpees. I am confident that I will. That's what would separate it from me, is the emotions that are connected with it.
Yeah. So obsession is when you're doing something because you're afraid of something or hoping or feel like it's going to lead to something else, as opposed to a joy in what it is that you're actually doing. Like if it's a joy in what you're actually doing, that's never an obsession. So just from a psychology kind of perspective there for you. Which I think is really helpful also for looking at stuff in our own lives. And if there's ever anything that you're doing because it's about a worry, that's probably a red light to look at it.
Yeah, if people want more detailed stuff, feel free to contact me, email me, because I've walked a lot of people through this. And you can, I hope I gave everyone everything necessary to do this themselves if they want to. You don't have to. But if you want, to work with me to make it faster or more complete or something like that, I'm here.
Yep, we'll offer that. We still have a few minutes, so we still have some more questions. Question, how do you keep track? Do you keep a journal?
For years, I was opposed to keeping track because I was just like, I don't keep track of how many days I brush my teeth. I don't think I should do that. And I didn't like that idea. But eventually I made a spreadsheet. And if I just change the date on the spreadsheet, and it keeps track of like how many days have passed and how many burpees I do per day. And so I just update that spreadsheet and that's it. I don't like using a watch or the stuff that like keeps the number of I'm not opposed to this. It just doesn't work for me. It works for some people, like the 10,000 steps stuff. By all means do that if that works for you, but I don't keep track of, I just know if I miss one day, I miss two, if I miss two, it's all over. So I don't miss any days and I know how many I do each day.
I would just point out, I said to you at the beginning of this that Josh and I are working on a coaching program. If you want to get information, just drop your email address into the chat and I'll keep all of those, because there's no page to go to, or we're not trying to sell you anything. But if you want more information from either what we're doing together or to work just with Josh or to work with me, just drop your email in there and we'll follow up with you. And also this is being recorded, so we can send you a copy of the slides or anything else you want. So if you just drop your email in there, I will get it. Okay, there is
a spreadsheet.
Oh, okay, cool. And there is, is that your spreadsheet of keeping track? Oh, great.
Yeah. So
great. So people can see that. That's terrific. Okay, cool. Okay, so there is another question here. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Are your habits pretty much set, or are you thinking to switch or add new habits in the future? And how specific do you think the habit needs to be?
Yeah, they've been pretty set for a while. I'm open to changing them. Like I've been thinking about people who know with my not flying, I'm trying to get to Europe, and I've to sail across the Atlantic. And I'm definitely not going to bring weights and lift weights on a sailboat. So I was like, what am I going to do about that? So I've been thinking about that. The writing, I've thought about changing the writing from writing daily to doing like one good article a week. And each day, like one day write the outline, the next day put the flesh on or something like that. I think about refining them a bit, and I probably will. I recently added meditation to the mix, and it's been a while since I've dropped some. Actually, no, I take it back. When I came up here, I'm staying at my mom's house, so I brought 2 kettlebells instead of 4. So I've had to simplify. This is constant adjustment. I don't know how I sound when I was just talking, but I feel like a kid with Lego, kind of putting things together in a way that works best. There's all these little pieces, and I want to create a structure that works.
Okay.
I sometimes think about like learning an instrument or singing, but I haven't switched to that yet. One day I might. I don't know.
Somebody else said, you said, remind us about cold showers. I think it was in relation to why you don't do them every day.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I did every day for 30 days, and it happened to be when the whole polar vortex thing was in. And so I bought a digital thermometer to measure the water temperature, and my record is 39.9 degrees, which is like, then it was starting to get actually into painful territory. But in the 40s and 50s, it's not so bad. So at the end of those 30 days, I said, this is really valuable. There's something about this that I want to do for my whole life. But I also knew if I tried to do cold showers every day and never warm shower or 2 showers, that wasn't going to work. So I thought every other day, still too much. Every 3rd day, still too much. And so I settled on every 4th day. And that felt like the right number. And it was the right number for me for a long time. And I would do it on my cardio days. So I'd time my cardio, so I'd be really hot and sweaty. I'm getting the cold shower. And then the cardio, I'm getting older. I'll turn 49 soon. So I dropped that to every 5th day. And so now I'm doing cold showers every 5th day. I don't know if that was too, do I sound nerdy when I'm saying this? I don't know. But every 5th day is the right number for me. It still has the, SIDCHA, the D. It's not technically daily, but on a really cold day, oh man, there's some days when it's really hard. But I'll tell you this, like to get into cold shower is hard, but you come out refreshed and invigorated. Oh, I won't try to explain it. Every time I try to explain it, people are like, if you want to try it. If not, pick another.
How long is the cold shower for, Josh, for people who are curious about starting that? How long
the first 30 days, I said 5 minutes, nothing less, no hot water. And I would set here's a trick I had to get myself in the water. I would set the timer on my phone to 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Start the timer. So that meant I had 10 seconds to get in. And it was a really painful, difficult 10 seconds. But then now my rule is it's not minimum 5 minutes. It's, I have to do the shampoo and soap, my regular shower. And then I don't like using clocks. So I do things by breath. So I have to take 60 breaths after I've finished the shower part. So I'm not skimping on the cold. Once I was in Brazil and I was really close to the equator, and I was like, oh, this is the first time I can take my cold shower. It's going to be not cold. And I got a sunburn and the hot water hurt. I was like, the one time I get to take a cold shower, it's not going to be cold. And it hurt anyway.
Okay, so, and here's another question. So a habit doesn't have to be daily. Does that make it harder to attain the discipline or rhythm?
I don't find that to be the case. It's the important thing is that there are times when it's difficult and you can't allow yourself to say no on those days. So it has to be enough that it's challenging, but I forget if I said this or not, but people often ask me, do you do it on the cold days? Do you do it on the days when you're sick? Those are the days when I learn who I am. Those are the words like, who am I? When I take away all the artifice and all of what I'm trying to present to others of myself, who am I when it's just me? In that regard, I think of all of the exercises, like all the burpees that I do regular are preparing me for the day that I had to do 50 burpees after I ran a marathon. That's when I find out who I am. And if I could take a break on that day, I don't know who I am. It's almost as if all of it is to prepare me for that. So is it regular enough that at some point when it's really challenging, not to stop?
And Josh, you made a comment earlier. You said about how this also starts to influence who the people are that you have around you, right? And what really struck me in our conversations were that as fabulous and disciplined as you are, that you are so encouraging for people who are just starting out with this. It's not like, you have this expectation, like you very much meet people where they are. So when you are just out in the world and you meet people who are not very disciplined, right? Like how do you relate?
Well, first of all, that's me for most of my life. I mean, these habits are relatively short. I don't know. To me, it's like if you have a dog, do you meet other dog people? I mean, you like to meet other dog people if you're a dog person. And it's like that. And I tend to have people in my life, it's like my mom started doing burpees for a while. My mom ran a marathon. She ran her first marathon at age 66, or maybe it was 67, never having run more than 5K before that training. And yeah, most people don't have, even people who have lots of habits don't have them like I do. It's not necessary to go to the extent that I have, but there are people there's reasons why I picked Hemingway and Martha Graham and Gandhi and Mandela. I like people like that. And you just tend to have more people like that. Try it out and see what happens.
Yeah, it's amazing. Many wise people have said you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So as we start to think this way, then we start to develop people like that around us. Okay, it's time to wrap up so we can get everybody out on time. Thank you all so much for being here. Hope that you got a ton out of this and can take this and put it into practice right away. A bunch of you have dropped your emails into the chat already, so I will collect those, get them out to you. If you haven't yet, please do. Otherwise, if you're here, you are probably or possibly connected to either Josh or myself in some way, so you can always follow up on it. The coaching that we're looking at doing from this is, again, the combination of taking you from the initial exploration and foundation of what your values truly are, who you really are, how you want to express that, your vision and purpose in life, and then this plan to make you completely bulletproof so that you have and can follow the daily habits to be able to make that outcome and create the impact that you want to have in the world, whatever that is for you. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. It actually is Friday. Sometimes it's hard to.
I have one special request.
Yes, Josh.
That I hope to hear from you if I can help, but I really hope to hear from you 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I would love to hear how your SIDCHAs are going, how they're affecting your life, and in the long haul.
Yeah, the changes that have been made. That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing to see.